3 days with the Outer Worlds 2 felt like an emotional roller coaster, one I honestly didn't want to get off. From the improved combat to characters I actually cared about to the plot that thickens with every turn, I was way more invested than I thought I was. This isn't a perfect game by any means, but it might be the actual kind of chaos that I love. Within the first 2 minutes, the Outer Worlds 2 remind me exactly what kind of game this is going to be. Sharp humor that doesn't wait an hour to show up. This matters to me because if an RPG can't set the tone early, it usually doesn't respect your time later. A huge standout is the character creation. It really surprised me, not because it's complicated, but it's very expressive. The prosthetics, the placeholders, look, I'm not someone who spent multiple hours creating a character, but if you are, the game lets you go wild with it. What really stood out to me though was the background and traits. The background itself looked like it's very important because it dictates what conversation responses you can have, which is pretty cool. With the traits, you could pick more than one trait if you wanted to, but then you had to pick a negative. That looked cool and I honestly contemplated about doing it, but for a first playthrough, I'm gonna just stick with my one trait. Skill wise, I kept it familiar. I wanted to focus on guns and speech because honestly, that's what I do for every game. And the cool thing about the Outer Worlds 2 is you can play any way you want. If you want to focus on science and melee weapons, go ahead and do that. If you wanted to be a sniper stealth build, you can do that. You have the freedom to do whatever you want, which is really cool. After creating my character, my very first conversation, the game was already flagging my decisions, saying things like this will be remembered. Remember what? What did I do? That made me slow down because my choices could affect people in certain ways, and it's really cool to me. Now to talk about combat for a second, it really felt familiar. Cover shooting, slow down, nothing really new with the series. But then I shot my first grenade out the air, and that single moment sold me more than any tutorial could. It told me that combat could be creative. Maybe I could look up different ways to kill people. Maybe have melee build. One thing that really irks me in a lot of games is when you kill someone, why do their gun always disappear? Like I saw you shooting me. Why are they gonna just magically disappear? That doesn't make sense to me. Towards the end of the mission, a big story shift caught me off guard. Not because it was shocking, because the game didn't waste time getting there. It was amazing. And just to keep adding on to it, once we got past that initial mission, when we loaded back on our ship, it gave us a chance to respect. It felt like it was saying, now that you understand the system, now you can change stuff if you want to, which I did, and I totally took advantage of that. By the end of the day, the Outer Worlds didn't overwhelm me. It introduced itself confidently. Now the real question is whether the depth can actually grow in this game, or will it just stay the same? Day 2. This is where a lot of games either hook me or start testing my patience. The first thing that really stood out to me was how great the game looks. From the colors, the environment, even how the enemy designs look, it was a massive step up from the first game, which to me, I felt like I remember it feeling a little flat. I actually caught myself stopping, just looking around, and that doesn't really happen often. Something that I'm seeing a lot in this game is the player choice. Quite often it gives you multiple ways to approach your situation, whether you want to go in loud or handle missions a little peacefully. Normally I usually choose going loud every single time, but this time I wanted to choose the calm route. And to be honest, that didn't last long. I accidentally picked a fight with enemies way above my level, and I did the only natural thing was to run away. And I respect that, honestly. The game didn't scale down for me. It basically said, you messed up, you have to deal with it. And the challenging part didn't stop there. Later on, I was forced to fight in a tight combat space with multiple enemies, and I almost died over and over again. I couldn't tell if I was under level, under geared, or just playing badly. By the time I survived, I had no healing left, and honestly, I just wanted a breather. After finishing that one tough mission, I got a companion. Then I realized I've been doing most of day 2 completely alone. No backup, no support. This is the reason why it felt so brutal, which sucks because they could have told me I didn't have nobody with me, or I could have paid attention. So that's my bit on me. Companions here doesn't feel optional. They feel necessary. But before continuing on the main quest, I wanted to power up my companion, and that quest sounded simple. It was not. What I thought would be a quick fight turned into wave and wave of enemies, then a boss that I was not ready for. To survive, I was literally running around in circles, getting a couple of shots in. Somehow, someway, I barely made it through, but by the end of day 2, I wasn't bored, I was just tired. The game definitely hooked me, but now I need to see if day 3 actually rewards all that effort, or it's just more grinding. Going to day 3, I wasn't fully sold yet. This was the last chance for the Outer Worlds 2 to either lose me or completely win me over forever. It wasn't off to a good start. I was low on health and still confused on how healing actually works. Once I realized inhalers run on chargers, not consumables, it clicked. I've been buying the wrong stuff the entire time. It was frustrating, but once I understood it, the system made sense. However, one of the annoying things I saw was I kept running into doors, paths, and areas that I could not access because of my skills. At first, it made me kind of just want to restart my whole character, but then I realized that's kind of the point. The game isn't blocking you, it's asking you to commit. Also, it made it very clear that the world is dangerous. You have to be careful of mines, poison, enemies way above your level. The game doesn't warn you, it expects awareness. This made exploration feel more intense instead of just the standard running around. And speaking with exploring, I got hit with a moment where the only way forward was crossing the bridge, and that cost was morally ugly. It basically boiled over to this: I had to hand over innocent strangers or betray my companion. Both options didn't work for me, so I tried to find a different way. Unfortunately, I could not find it. And I couldn't betray my companion because this is the main reason why I'm doing this mission for. And honestly, seeing that innocent person get sentenced and seeing how my companion react actually stuck with me. This game didn't reward me for this choice, it just made me live with it. Day 3 had more surprises for me because it actually introduced my first flaw and another flaw. It kept coming and coming. One of the flaws I got was being over-prepared because I have a habit of reloading after every shot, which is true, and I laughed about that. Then I got another one for being easily distracted because I kept putting my points in different options, and that hurt me. Then I realized this game is making my person feel more personal. Instead of punishing me, the game is turning my bad habits into a roleplay. While trying out these flaws, I got hit with another boss area, but then combat finally clicked. I had new weapons, better positioning, and just enough chaos to make it feel earned. Also realized you can come back to certain areas after leveling up to see the past that you missed, or help people out differently, or even just seeing the skills that you can unlock. To me, that's when the world stopped feeling linear and more like an open world feeling. By the end of day 3, I realized something. I didn't just tolerate the system, I started playing with them. The humor, the flaws, the consequences. This is where The Outer Worlds 2 finally just clicked. Day 3 didn't just save the experience, it transformed it. After spending 3 full days playing with The Outer Worlds 2, I finally feel like I understand what the game's trying to be. It starts off fast and heavy. The opening mission throws you straight into chaos and teaches you how the game wants to be played. Day 2 slowed down a bit for me, not because the game got boring, but because I was still figuring out the system, navigation, and how everything actually connects. But once everything clicked, the game opened up in a big way. What really surprised me is how different everyone's experience is going to be. The choices I made, the flaws I took, the paths I locked myself out of. I guarantee your playthrough won't look anything like mine. But that's where the fun really comes from. At first, I honestly thought this game was going to be around 8 out of 10 for me. But by the end of day 3, I was having way more fun than I expected. Experimenting with the system, living with bad decisions, and just leaning into the chaos. At the $50 price that I paid, I fully believe that this game is worth it. If I had to put a number on it, I would give The Outer Worlds a 9 out of 10. And the only reason why it's not a 10 out of 10, still has no romances. Yeah, and that still pisses me off. If you've been on the fence about this game, I say give it 3 days. It might just surprise you. Until then, stay heroic.